systèmes spatiaux, toujours plus complexes, répondant aux besoins de plus en plus exigeants de nos armées. Ainsi, le système va entrer pleinement dans sa phase d'utilisation, prévue pour durer encore au moins 10 ans, avec une participation active du CNES pour en assurer le fonctionnement et la qualité de service.
Les satellites CSO sont le fruit d'une coopération qui contribue à l'autonomie stratégique européenne.
Les satellites CSO sont ce qu'il se fait de mieux en observation optique spatiale en Europe. Leurs caractéristiques inégalées permettent d'échanger de l'imagerie radar avec l'Allemagne et l'Italie et d'offrir ainsi aux opérationnels français le meilleur de ce qui se fait en Europe. D'autres pays participent à la coopération, permettant de construire l'Europe de la défense en offrant à tous ces pays le meilleur de ce qui se fait en optique visible et infrarouge spatiale.
L'objectif des satellites est d'offrir aux forces les images nécessaires pour suivre et conduire les guerres d'aujourd'hui et anticiper les guerres de demain.
Dans un monde marqué par l'incertitude, la résurgence de nouvelles menaces est caractérisée par le triptyque compétition, contestation, conflit. Les armées ont besoin plus que jamais d'un outil d'appréciation autonome de situation. La capacité militaire d'observation de la Terre contribue avec d'autres moyens à répondre à cet impératif. Elle est actuellement constituée de 2 satellites identiques CSO-1 et CSO-2, employés dans des missions complémentaires de reconnaissance et d'identification. Plus précisément, elle permet de détecter, de reconnaître, d'identifier et localiser tout objectif d'intérêt de défense, de générer des données à des fins de renseignement, de ciblage, et de reconnaître de jour comme de nuit en tout point du monde dans un rythme compatible avec celui des opérations. Sous la responsabilité du commandement de l'espace, le système CSO participe pleinement à l'appui des opérations militaires en fournissant une imagerie optique visible et infrarouge, fiable, précise et au bon moment.
Les images des satellites CSO sont utilisées par de nombreux services de renseignement, principalement la direction du renseignement militaire. Le système MUSIS est en service depuis 2019 et fournit depuis plusieurs centaines d'images quotidiennement.
Nous évoluons dans un monde toujours plus conflictuel où les capacités d'observation de la France sont pleinement sollicitées. Grâce à CSO-3, la direction du renseignement militaire pourra acquérir davantage d'images, de jour comme de nuit. Cela améliorera également le délai entre 2 prises de vue sur un même site d'intérêt. Le traitement de ce flux additionnel d'images électro-optiques et infrarouges est facilité par les outils d'intelligence artificielle. Cela va améliorer la quantité et la qualité du renseignement produit, ainsi que son partage. Ce 3e satellite de reconnaissance consolide notre crédibilité auprès de nos partenaires les plus avancés dans ce domaine. C'est notre autonomie d'appréciation de situation au profit des autorités politiques, des décideurs militaires, ainsi que de nos forces déployées qui sera renforcée, de même que notre résilience.
La DGA prépare déjà la génération suivante avec le programme IRIS qui prendra la relève à partir des années 2030. Avec ses satellites aux performances et à l'activité accrue, il permettra de poursuivre les missions de CSO conformément à la stratégie spatiale de défense. Tout comme Helios et CSO, le programme IRIS s'inscrit dans une logique de coopération en partageant nos capacités d'imagerie avec nos partenaires européens. Il promeut également une logique d'export de nos satellites au profit de nos alliés.
Aux côtés des satellites de télécommunication Syracuse et les satellites de renseignement électromagnétique CERES, les satellites CSO accroissent considérablement la supériorité opérationnelle de nos forces sur les théâtres d'opération. Ils permettent à la France de disposer d'une plus grande autonomie en matière d'appréciation de situation et de décision.
So yes, a very, very important satellite up there inside Europe's newest rocket.
Yes, it's the second time Ariane 6 will lift off from the new pad here at the Guiana Space Centre, so it's an important launch for all of us.
It really is. And designing and building a rocket like Ariane 6 is a monumental task. It requires collaboration and expertise, well, from lots of different fields, really.
It involves engineers, scientists, technicians, project managers, and lots of other specialists, all working together to make such a complex project a reality.
Indeed, from intricate designs to the precise manufacturing of components, every step requires meticulous planning and teamwork. Let's have a listen in now to some of the teams involved.
Imagining Ariane 6. Imagining a heavy lift launcher. That's an immensely complex challenge. Weight, performance, power, payload capacity, etc. Everything has to be optimized with extreme precision to meet extreme conditions. For instance, the use of liquid propellants at super low temperatures, or the thinness of the center core's aluminum casting. Less than a centimeter thick, it must be able to withstand the rigors of spaceflight. Ariane 6 is a symbol of robustness and reliability. With over 600 companies, including more than 300 SMEs involved in its design and production, it's a truly European endeavor. Behind this cooperative effort lies a huge challenge: coordinating all the expertise, managing the huge range of partners and manufacturers so that every stakeholder can contribute their unique know-how to the project. That's what European space engineering is all about. This rocket takes shape all across Europe. The launcher's propulsion systems are built in Vernon, France. Les Mureaux provides the main stage. The high-temperature protective structures and booster propulsion systems are designed and made in Bordeaux. The fairing is integrated at Europe's Spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana, and the upper stage is manufactured in Bremen, Germany. Each partner plays their role in making Ariane 6 a uniquely capable, perfectly optimized, high-performance heavy-lift launcher. All the components then arrive at Europe's Spaceport in French Guiana. This is where the launcher undergoes final assembly. Every millimeter matters, and this process is carried out with absolute precision. Ariane 6 stands ready on the launch pad, ready to write a new chapter in European space.
And there she is on the pad, 11 minutes and 41 seconds to launch. And the teams here in the fishbowl, what we call the fishbowl inside that glass, some of the teams from Arianespace and Ariane Group who are responsible for our rocket. There they are. We call this group the flight desk, David.
Yes, here we have the CEO and CTO of Arianespace. We also have Ralf Stucker, who is precisely the head of launcher exploitation at Ariane Group, so in charge of delivering and building the launcher here in French Guiana.
Yep, very important job. Boards are green there. You can see them on the panels. We have a number of control rooms on the job today, some in Europe. We have two here in the Space Centre. We've got mission control we've been looking at in charge of the mission, and closer to the pad is launch control. What are these folk doing, David?
Yes, this is the CDL-3. This is the place where the teams are getting the launch pad and the rocket ready for liftoff. These are the operations team. They are sending the various commands to turn the launcher avionics on, to fill the propellant tanks, to pressurize the tanks, and to do all the necessary checks to confirm that the launcher is ready for launch. And behind them, behind the glass windows in the back, the engineering teams are monitoring all these operations closely, making sure that all parameters are as expected. They are following all physical parameters, temperatures, pressures, electrical currents. And all these teams are also being supported in Europe by some additional teams who are there to help in case of need.
The more the merrier. Always good to have lots of people on the job. We had the final weather check about 10 seconds ago at T-10. The weatherboard is green, so that's good news. Obviously, weather conditions must be right for a launch to go ahead. And we are, of course, in the Amazon rainforest, on the edge of the Amazon rainforest here on the coast of French Guiana, so it obviously does rain a lot, but rain isn't a problem, although there are other things we need to monitor, aren't there?
Yes, that's right. We monitor high-altitude winds between 10 and 20 kilometers. We need to make sure that wind speed and direction are below a certain limit, not because the launcher could not withstand it, but for safety reasons in case of any launcher malfunction. And we also monitor lightning risk during the ascent to avoid being hit by lightning, of course. Here on the ground, we have the launch mast, the lightning mast that you see in the images here, so we are protected.
You can see here the weather center at the base.
That's right, and from here we launch the weather balloons that you see here. They are sent up into the atmosphere with sensors to capture atmospheric temperature, pressure, humidity, and from this we are able to predict precisely what the conditions would be for launch.
I've had another question coming in from Patasensa. What's the difference between the Ariane 6.2 and 6.4 version?
Yeah, so we have two versions of Ariane 6 with either 2 or 4 boosters, depending on the launcher performance that we require for the mission. Today, we only need 2, considering the satellite mass and the targeted orbit.
Now, teams have been working here at the base preparing the rocket and the satellite now for some weeks. We call that process the launch campaign. Just talk us through some of the events, some of the things they've been doing, David.
Yeah, so here you see Canopé, which is the new cargo ship, a hybrid using sails, that has transported the rocket stages from mainland Europe to French Guiana. They arrived here end of November, and they were then transported by road to the horizontal assembly building that you see here. In this building, the main stage and the upper stage are mated together. We do the mechanical connections between the 2 stages, and afterwards the electrical connections. And once this is ready, the whole core stage is transported to the launch pad. There is 800 meters, and we use this automatic vehicle to transport the stage to the launch pad. We are then lifting it up and putting it on the launch table, from which it will take off. The boosters are added to the launcher to complete the assembly of the launcher. On the satellite side, CSO-3 arrived by plane to French Guiana. It was mid-January. It was then transported to the satellite preparation facilities, where it was checked, it was fueled. And once all of this was ready, it was integrated on the satellite adapter, which is the interface between the satellite and the launcher. And this was then integrated into what we call the LVA, the launch vehicle adapter, on which we bring the 2 fairing halves to encapsulate the satellite inside and get it ready for its transport from this encapsulation building up to the launch pad. And once we get to the launch pad, that was just a few days ago, we put it on top of the launcher, and we do the final integration of the satellite on the launcher and to get it ready for launch.
Indeed, so many operations, lots of experts working there, bringing us to this point, 5 minutes and 48 seconds now to launch. But actually, the final countdown started around about 10 hours ago. There were a lot of operations during that time, weren't there?
Yes, the countdown started a few hours ago with the mobile gantry rollback very early this morning, 8.5 hours before launch. After that, all the propellant lines were flushed and cooled, and then the fueling of the launcher started around 5.5 hours before launch. And in parallel, we had the electrical checks and arming of the launcher in preparation for the launch.
À tous les vidéos, attention pour la séquence finale lanceur. Top à 0 moins 5 minutes.
And the Range Operations Manager, Alex Serk, has announced the beginning of what we call the synchronized sequence, or the automated sequence, or automatic sequence. Ariane 6 is now becoming progressively autonomous. And again, a whole range of very vital operations now during this time, David.
Yes, all those operations are very precisely timed, combining system checks, pressurization of the cryotanks, activation of different systems and valves. And the control of the operations is gradually being handed over from the ground computers to the onboard computers. These onboard computers will actually send the last commands to ignite the main engine to check that it's working properly, and then it will command the opening of the cryogenic arms and the ignition of the boosters just before liftoff.
Those are those yellow arms you can see up there attaching to the rocket. And as we said, we've got a number of different control rooms on the job, and some of those in Europe. This is the team at Evry, Arianespace team in Paris.
Yes, this is headquarters in Paris. Lots of people that have worked in the preparation of this launch.
Hello, everybody. Looking forward to the launch there. We've also got one of the Ariane Group sites in Ottobrunn in Germany.
Yes, this is Ariane Group's European Centre of Excellence for the development and production of rocket engine combustion chambers.
Go Ariane. Lots of support from there. And let's say hello now. Hello to everybody in Bordeaux, in France, another Ariane Group site.
Yes, there are several Ariane Group sites in this region in charge of booster engineering and the preparation of booster parts and high-temperature materials.
Fantastic. Everyone showing all their support there. Go Ariane 6. So, 3 minutes and 5 seconds now as we get closer to launch. Some excitement there in the various different centres, but we've got some very high concentration levels back here at the Guiana Space Centre, where we're getting very close now. A couple of things to look out for, David. Now, if you look at the 2/3 up the rocket, you can see what we call the cryogenic arms. We saw them briefly earlier. What are they doing? They're pumping cryogenic fuel into
That's right. They're pumping liquid oxygen and hydrogen into the tanks of the upper stage. They're very cold. Liquid hydrogen is minus 253 degrees Celsius. You can see them better here in this image. And oxygen is 180 degrees below zero. And yes, they are very, very cold.
Yeah, and you can't see it here, but sometimes you can see a little bit of white smoke coming out. So actually, this is the Vulcan engine we're looking at right now, the engine on the main stage. And we have an ignition sequence, don't we, David, which involves it switching on 7 seconds
That's
before.
right. That's right. The engine will be switched off 7 seconds before liftoff. The onboard computer will check that everything is working correctly. And so once that is done, it will send the commands to open the cryogenic arms and to ignite the boosters. Once that is done, there is no holding back.
Yep, our rocket will take off. Yes, so people here in the Mission Control Centre now sort of heading out, because a lot of people like to go onto the balconies to watch the launch with their own eyes. So you can see in here in Mission Control all the VIP seats, all the guest seats are empty. The boards are green. We are getting close now to launch.
À tous de DDO, attention pour moins 1 minute. Top à 0 moins 1 minute.
We are 1 minute to launch. Best wishes now to all the teams who have been working so hard for today. Good luck, everyone.
Bon voyage, CSO-3 on Ariane 6.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Allumage de ESR et décollage. La propulsion est nominale. Pilotage calme.
We have lifted off. Ariane 6 and CSO-3 have started their
Propulsion
journey.
nominale.
He's telling us that the propulsion is normal. We are looking here at our cameras, onboard cameras.
Tous les paramètres à
looking
bord sont
down.
nominaux.
He's telling us that everything is going normally. I believe, David, we're looking down here at one of the boosters.
Yes, that's right. These are the onboard cameras. We have a
Propulsion
cloudy day
nominale.
today, so you can see the rocket going through the clouds.
Indeed, we've already broken the sound barrier. We
Pilotage
have.
calme, trajectoire nominale, paramètres à bord nominaux.
He's telling us that everything's going according to plan. David, we can hear our rocket coming over The Jupiter Mission Control Center, about 16 kilometers from that pad. It takes time for the noise to get to us, the rumble, as it's sometimes known in the jungle.
That's right, and we can feel now the vibrations of the boosters coming up to us 15 kilometers away.
Indeed, and it's those boosters which are doing all the work, even though we have switched on the engine on the Vulcan engine on the main stage. The boosters, well, their job is to literally boost us away from
Trajectoire nominale, paramètres à bord nominaux.
That's right. It's the boosters are providing more than 85% of the more than 800 tons that we need to take off, and these boosters will burn its 2 times 142 tons of propellant during a bit more than 2 minutes. And after that, we will have lost about 70% of the mass that we had at the time of liftoff.
That's the name of the game. The lighter we are, of course, the faster we go. Those boosters scheduled to detach in a matter of seconds. Seeing our images here on the live cameras.
Séparation des ESR.
Just a few seconds after the event, but we have confirmation that those have actually separated. As I said, the images are coming to us for technical reasons, just with a very slight delay. And he's telling us that the propulsion is nominal. And there we go. That's what it looks like in space. Those boosters falling away. The trajectory on the right-hand side of our screen.
Trajectoire nominale, paramètres à bord sont nominaux.
Everything's normal. The green line is the planned trajectory. The cross, indeed, is our actual position of our rocket. Our speed and altitude. David?
Yes, we are close to 100 kilometers now, and we're 150 kilometers downrange from Kourou, and we have a speed now of 1.7 kilometers per second and increasing.
Per second, not per hour, per second. So that's the kind of speeds we're going to be heading up towards. We'll be getting to 8 kilometers per second. Look at the images on the bottom right of your screen. That is the big main stage, the tank of fuel at the very front of sort of pointy section, if you like, is our fairing with our satellite inside. It's got a number of different jobs. It's protecting the satellite, isn't it?
Right, it protects the satellite while it's on the ground against dust, humidity, on any kind of pollution. Then it protects the satellite during the launch itself, the liftoff, because there is a lot of acoustic noise.
Trajectoire nominale.
And finally, during the atmosphere part, then it protects it against the air friction and the extreme heat that is generated by this friction.
So our satellite nice and comfortable up there in first class inside the fairing, having started its journey. That fairing will remain there for another few seconds. And of course, as we saw earlier, David, you were explaining it's made in 2 halves.
That's right, and this is the onboard camera showing the 2 halves of the fairing that will separate.
Séparation coiffe.
We have confirmation that the fairing has separated, and we'll be seeing those, hopefully, those images on our onboard camera. It actually, as it separates, David, it flexes. It's called the breathing mode. It's very specially designed to do that.
Yes, that's right. The breathing mode. Here we go. We have the separation and the breathing mode through the onboard cameras. This breathing mode is this movement of the 2 halves that happens due to the forces of the pyrotechnic separation and then the ejection forces and the flexibility of the structure.
Looking back down at our planet now, you can see that thin blue line.
La propulsion est nominale.
The atmosphere of our Earth. He's telling us that the propulsion's normal, everything's going according to plan. So we're burning the main stage. It's a great big tank of fuel. David, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the main stage is a cryogenic stage. It's 32 meters tall and about 5 meter diameter. It weighs 23 tons and burns 154 tons of cryogenic propellant. And it has 2 tanks, a hydrogen tank in the lower part, an oxygen tank in the upper part. And for those who remember, on Ariane 5 we had a common bulkhead, meaning that the 2 tanks were together. On Ariane 6 they are separate. This in order to improve the handling of the pressures in the tanks.
Propulsion nominale.
And in the lower part of the tanks, we have the Vulcan 2.1, which is an improved version of the Vulcan 2 engine that we had on Ariane 5. We have improved the nozzle manufacturing. We have gas generators which are made using additive manufacturing, and we have also added a thermal protection around the nozzle in order to protect it from the heat coming from the boosters. And this will burn for over 7 minutes, increasing speed and altitude.
Separating each section of the rocket looks simple, but of course a lot is actually happening up there, and we're getting closer now to the next main event, which will be cut off of that main engine.
Yes, that's right. It's the guidance algorithm that's on the onboard computer that will detect that we have reached the right orbit for separation, and then it will send the shutdown command to the Vulcan engine. After that, we will have a pyrotechnic separation between the two stages and a set of springs that will push away the two stages. And we should be able to see it on the onboard cameras.
You can see on the bottom right you can see our satellite CSO-3 attached to the front of the rocket, the top of the rocket. Getting close now to the next event. We call it MECO, main engine cutoff.
Extinction Vulcain.
And we have confirmation that the engine has switched off.
Séparation LLPM.
And we have confirmation that the main stage
Allumage Vinci. Fin de mission sauvegarde.
has separated, and the upper stage has switched its engine on, and that's what it looks like up there in space with our onboard cameras. That great big
Propulsion nominale.
of propellant. It's burnt its fuel. It's falling back down to Earth. So, David, the upper stage has taken the wheel. It's a little bit like a fancy orbital taxi driver, because its job is to drop off its passengers in space. Today we just have one passenger. And we've got a new engine for the upper stage. It's called the Vinci engine.
Yes, the Vinci engine is one of the big innovations of Ariane 6. It provides the mission flexibility. It is designed to switch on and off up to 4 times, allowing to take different passengers to different orbits. It's the first Ariane rocket that has a cryogenic engine with this reignition capability. For the mission today, we will use the engine twice to deliver CSO-3 to its orbit. And after that, we will use a third burn of the engine to deorbit the upper stage.
And we had the range operations manager just back there announce that we've switched on something called the APU, the auxiliary propulsion unit. It's a new device that we've got on the upper stage. It performs a number of critical functions to enhance the versatility of Ariane 6. Everything's going normally. We'll talk a bit more about that, David, later in the programme, so do stay tuned. But just before we do, a shout-out for the Franco-German cooperation on the upper stage.
Yes, the upper stage, which is designed and built by Ariane Group in Bremen, in Germany, with an engine designed in Vernon, in France. And the whole thing was tested during the development of the launcher in a test bench designed by the German Space Agency.
And we picked up the signal in Bermuda. So once we release CSO-3, the French Space Agency will take on the satellite.